There's so many companies today doing the same things, or at least when you look at their marketing, you can see there is many similar speeches and presentation. They're probably a little bit different for each, but if you look at it as a customer, you can be confused. And it was very challenging to be surrounded by people within your own company who don't really understand the value and also think it's a department like, at the end of the corridor there is a marketing, there is sales, and there is partnerships. How can you make sure as a manager that after 2 years you're not going to realize that nothing really happened?
So, Dunya, you've scaled partnership in fast growth tech and built function from zero. So, what was your inflection point? When did you realize that partnership was not just support function, but a strategic one?
That's a very valid question. And by the way, I think there's still many companies who probably need to understand that there is a turning point in our way of selling in our society in general. I think it started with the fact that some companies in the tech industry, but not only, but started probably in the tech industry, they started to realize that they have always been into a very traditional way of working with their customers. So they had this very concrete, clear expectation from the departments. We expect the sales manager to sell, we expect the marketing to take care of the communication, the events, the branding of a company. Also providing leads, obviously, but it's just very clear. And then there was this moment where I guess also several companies started to realize we need to build something different. We need to have stickiness. We need to make sure that our customers are loyal to us. The reason is there's so many companies today doing the same things, or at least when you look at their marketing, you can see there is many similar speeches and presentation. They're probably a little bit different for each, but if you look at it as a customer, you can be confused. What should I select as a payment provider, as a loyalty tool, as a e-commerce platform? Because everyone is claiming to do the same thing. And I think this is how some companies decided we need also to invest in people. We need to have people who are behind the scene and behind the customers to bring this collaboration for the long run and to make sure that it's not only about one contract or one specific action. It's really about building something for the long run. And if you do that, the results also and everything you will get will be for the long run. So it's a kind of investment at some point. You decide that you're going to invest in something where you don't know exactly what will be the value, the outcome the first day, but you have the feeling that it will lead you somewhere bigger.
Many leaders still view partnership as secondary or hard to quantify. What would you say to an executive who underestimates this role in sustainable growth?
Look, I guess in every company, we should have a mindset of partnerships. It's not only the leader, the manager who is hiring the person who is convinced about it. I remember my very first years, early days in my career, I joined a company where they were just launching the very first partnerships. And basically the manager was convinced about it. One or two other people were, but then not everyone. And it was very challenging to be surrounded by people within your own company who don't really understand the value and also think it's a department like, at the end of the corridor, there is a marketing, there is sales, and there is partnerships. I think partnerships is a mindset of a whole company and everyone should be doing partnerships at some point. Now, I also understand that investing again in partnerships can be risky for a leader because the other departments, the other roles have, as I said, some very clear expectation. We expect from a sales manager to sign a deal after 3 months, 6 months, a year. Depends on what you're selling and the complexity of your product. But this is actually the ultimate goal, right? With the partnership manager or channel manager, alliances, no matter how you call it, it's actually about creating something. And also, depending on your company, it can be very different. For some companies, partnership is about collaborating around some communication, some events. For others, it's creating a relation only based on they have customers, you have customers, I want to exchange them. For others, it's something different. but it's still risky compared to the others because it's only on the long term that you can start to get these results. So unless in a very specific situation where you already know very well that company, you've worked together in the past, and you move to a new company and you recreate the connection, that goes obviously faster because you already did that hard work years back. But if it's not in that specific situation and you're creating something new, that means that it takes time, because exactly as in any relationship that you want to really lead and keep for the long term, trust is something that you build every day. And the more you're going to work together, the more you're going to talk together, the more you're going to see people, how they are, how they behave, you're going to trust them or not. And again, it's not only about the product in that role, because if it's only about the product, you reach out to a sales manager. If it's about the company itself, you reach out to the marketing or the GM or the representative of the company. When you look for partnerships, that means that you want to put your name close to the name of this company. So the meaning is big, because that means that officially everyone will be where you're working with that company, and it's not just a hidden contract somewhere. So to do that, I totally understand that you need some time, which is challenging for a manager who is expecting to get results. And also, how can you make sure that you are actually making progress? Because it's a long-term result, long-term expectation. But how can you make sure that at the end you're not saying, okay, I've been waiting 2 years and nothing happened? So what is the difference between inaction and hidden progress? So that's for me the reason why it's quite tricky for some
Okay.
managers.
No, definitely. I think you explained it very, very well, because there is kind of tension between short-term goals and long-term goals. So my question is, because here we are talking about how 30% we succeeded in transform a company are doing. And in some way, leaders and also partnership team need to make some tough decision, right? Something which is not really common, not easy, because you are thinking long-term. So in high growth phases, there's often a pressure to deliver fast, right? So how do you balance short-term expectation with the need for strategic alignment when selecting the right partners?
For me, what is obvious, and I hope actually it is for every single commercial role, is to understand very well what is my partner expectation. Because to be honest, most of the partnerships are based on motivation, which is I'm interested in his customers. I'm impressed by his portfolio of prospects. I would like to be introduced to XYZ contact that I know he has. Fair enough. But I think this should happen alongside another thinking, which is how much my collaboration will bring to that specific partner. And when I say how much, it's not only about revenue share, which is also possible, obviously, but it's to which extent we are really connecting at the right place. Why my product can make sense, or why my collaboration, or what am I bringing to this partner? Because let's say if I met with a company, a tech company, let's say a PMS or CMS or whatever, and they are eager to go into a specific market where I'm a leader, then that can make sense because we can really help each other. On the other side, if this company has a very much different way of thinking, for example, it's a company, let's say, who has an exclusive collaboration with another player that makes them dominant in every market. So they probably don't care about my wish to do a collaboration. So if I push too much, what will probably happen, I will end by getting something, but it will be very slow or very difficult, or I'll be always, never prioritized. And this is not what we can call a good partnership. I believe that quality over quantity is definitely something to bear in mind when doing partnerships, because if you really want to have a good one, that means great collaboration, follow-ups, knowing very well the company. So what do they sell? When do they sell? What kind of customers they have? Are they doing any upgrade in the solution? It's way beyond. I remember sometimes some of the partners were smiling when they were hearing me introducing them to someone. I was doing a pitch. They were saying, "Oh, you can join us to sell our products." And I was like, look, for me, this is just normal. I'm supposed to know who you are. I'm working with you. I'm putting my name close to yours. That has value for me. It's not only one single contract signed for one single customer, let's say. No, it's basically you and me saying, yes, yes, I will. Yes, we're going to work together. So the beginning is crucial, because at the beginning, we know exactly if we're going on the same direction and why we're doing this. Because if we are both convinced, then it will work. Now, it will land. It will get some result for sure. Then the second step for me that is crucial is, at the moment we decide to move together, we need to align the critical steps. We need to have a certain way of looking at progress. Again, since this is something to observe on the long term, and we cannot always get like the results on day one or even on month one, we need to have in mind the steps that we need to put in place to make progress. For example, today I've signed a partnership. Great. Probably before signing, I've made a presentation about my product and we understood each other. But now we're going to the second level, the level where the partner will start to speak about us. So what are the key information he needs to have? And probably not only one person, but several people in one room. And what are we trying to achieve in the very short term together? Is it having a training session? Is it going to a meeting customer together for the first time to see how we are, how it's like a dance, and are we dancing well or not? So all these things can be a series of, very concrete steps and plan. And this is where you're going to land at the end. It's basically an action plan to make sure that you're not wasting your time, because that's also a very tricky part. You are conscious that the results will not happen again on day one, but how can you make sure as a manager that after 2 years, you're not going to realize that nothing really happened? Because if you put too much pressure on your partnership manager in 3 months, 6 months, sometimes even a year, that's ridiculous, because he's planting the seed. It's like watching like a seed, tree seed, and don't understanding why it's not already big. Yes, so the tricky piece is indeed to make sure that what you're doing today will at the end bring some results. Because if you, as a manager, start to put pressure on your partnership manager after 3 months, 6 months, sometimes even a year, depending on the companies and what you're trying to achieve, it's similar to me as if you're just planted a seed and you're watching every day if it's going to grow and reach that high as a tree. But on the other side, you cannot just plant the seed, turn your head, and just, after 2 months, 2 years, realize that you invested in someone and you allowed some budget or time and resource, and at the end, it's not leading to the expected result. Having this plan in mind, these steps with the partner, is a way to, you as a partnership manager, make sure that your partner is taking you on the right track, and at the end of the year you'll be achieving your goals and your expectation for your companies. So it's discussing with your partnership, with your partner, and not just leaving things random. If, for example, he committed into sending leads and nothing is happening, just give him a call and have a proper chat. Say what's going on, because we agreed on something and we decided to go. That's why, again, I'm saying the first step is critical. We decided to go together because we know it's going to work. So why it's not happening? Tell me, give me actually some information. Obviously, if you made a mistake on step one, it's more difficult because you're working with someone that is probably not a good choice. So I would stress even more how important is it to have quality over quantity in mind.
Okay, good. So one thing, Dunia, is you said right at the beginning that you have some non-negotiable from day one, right? So you talk about mutual trust, mutual commitment. So just would like to understand is, for example, if we want to apply network thinking, how do you do to evaluate the capabilities of network effect when you were discussing with a partner? In other words, is how do we identify that these partners might leverage value in the long-term run by using the network effect?
This is a very important question because it's even leading us to the question of reputation, actually. The question of, again, the long term vision. When you collaborate with a partner, most of the time, indirectly, it's not only with this partner. it's also with other solution around. For example, let's select a very concrete, just to make it clear for the audience. But let's, for example, consider that you are willing to work with a certain point of sale, for example, cash register in the retail space or hospitality, F&B, no matter. So a lot of retailers or companies are using this POS. So you probably start to oversee quite a lot of interesting prospects using this solution. But these customers, these prospects, are probably not implementing the solution themselves, and they're relying on a system integrator, an agency, a consultant. And this is how you start to realize that alongside the specific partner you've selected, there is maybe 3, 4, 5 other partners that you are constantly seeing in the same space, which means that it has a double effect. At some point, it's very interesting because if you manage to get a good, strong collaboration or at least relationship with them, that will help you because everyone will start to talk about you, your solution, your product, your company, even yourself as a person. And if everyone is saying the same, customers will start to think, okay, that's probably true. On the other side, that means there is 5 more people that should be convinced about your solution. And if one of them is actually very influential in the market, sometimes just a small sentence can ruin everything. If the customer is in the room and he is facing these different partners, and one of them who is influential, just at the end of the meeting, stand and say, just be careful with them. That simple sentence can be a problem. So, of course, I'm not saying that we should be anxious about having everyone on our side and everyone trusting us 100%. You always have some people who don't like what you do or even yourself, but you just need to make sure that it's not for something tangible. I remember years back, I started to hear about a specific company, some pretty bad thing about the co-founder. But these things actually were tangible, and also started to hearing them from different angles. And I've also experienced them. So your reputation will not be ruined by just one opinion, of course. It's not what I'm saying. Again, we cannot please everyone. But if it starts to be around something that you are, if it's about something very important, either in your product or your personality, let's say, for example, if everyone start to say, yeah, they have a great product, but what a bad technical team they have. If you want to implement the product, poof, just get ready because it's going to take a decade or this kind of stuff. So that brings me to a point. Be always transparent and honest because any customer is ready to hear, I have a great product, but I should tell you it's going to take time because I don't have the bandwidth. And I think it's fine. Again, the long-term vision. Yes, you're eager to sign this contract now, but do you want to be signed a contract that will end in a year or two? Or are you willing to delay maybe by a year or two and get a 10 years contract? So that's the thing about this network that is super important.
For example, the Apple Store, so more user iPhone we have, more application we have, more developer we have on the Apple ecosystem. So, and as platforms evolve, growth bring its own momentum. So more partners, more integration, more expectation. And soon it's not just a product that's scaling, it's an entire ecosystem. And at a certain point, you reach the decision to lead this ecosystem or being part of it. What are your critical points for you to make that decision?
To be very frank, I think it's a matter also of your position in the market. You're mentioning Apple, which is one of the most dominant tech companies. So I guess,
This is an easy one, to be honest with you.
yeah, they obviously have the luxury of locking, yeah, people in their system. And when I say that, it's not absolutely not a judgment. It's also because they have a huge community of people who really love their product. And I'm speaking about a community and not customers. It's people who really trust the brand and trust the product and live with it and have even shaped certain way of living through their product. So they have the luxury to establish the rule and people will follow and probably stick to it. And at the same time, they have high pressure because they need to keep that bar very high all the time. And everyone is just looking at them, expecting any small problem to point their fingers. That's we say in French, la rançon de la gloire. You want to be the leader, okay, but everyone will be staring at you. If you're basically not an Apple company, yeah, that's a very critical decision to be made, because you do need sometimes a network, an environment to develop your own product and to get customers. You can have a philosophy of my product will always be integrated to the key platforms. This is how I actually people get my product. There's a lot of widget. There is a lot of tools that you can have in e-commerce platform, for example, or in specific application. And these companies have created then the whole strategy only relying on partnership at some point, because natively their solution is in platforms, and once you buy this platform, you get their solution. Yeah, I think it's a smart way, but I still believe that a product that has some kind of, I'm not going to say independency, but modularity is today key for customers. Less and less customers wants to be locked in a system. More and more customers are willing to have something customized. And why? Is because probably more and more customers are now embracing the digital transformation. And before, I think getting all in one was also very convenient for them. Now, already for many years, there is digital transformation experts, even internally in the companies. You have payment experts now. You have literally people hired to just look after one specific asset of the digital strategy. So that means they have bandwidth and time to assess everything and to make their decision. And that's also why, for example, years back, not so long, but maybe 4 or 5 years back, we started to hear a lot about the trend of the headless commerce. So headless commerce was nothing but stop having all in one. You can get this piece of the puzzle, let's say, from Shopify, this piece from another Adobe, this piece from Salesforce Commerce Cloud, and you can get the best of each. While years back, the beauty was, oh, look, all in one platform, you get it all, just use it. It's easy, plug and play. Because people were clueless. How can I do this? I don't have the experts. I don't have the people. So again, very much depending on your level of maturity, very much depending on your position in the market. I think if you are a dominant, let's say, payment provider, you can definitely allow yourself to have this all in one, because people are happy, they trust you, they follow you for many reasons, probably. So they're happy to have even more connection with you and to have probably one contact to, manage everything. But if you're not in this specific position, you're still growing or you're very recent, then I would say that companies test you or get one piece of the cake before going like for the full, which is also fine. And the past years have also seen that there is sometimes some unexpected evolution, unexpected things that happen. I don't want to say the word of 2020, but that year, for example, everything has been moved in a very unexpected way. And all of a sudden, some things that were taken for granted have changed drastically. Not to mention the evolution that can happen sometimes because of a specific context, political or economical. So people have wants to remain as much as possible in the driver seat.
Okay. An amazing answer, Dunia, because that resonates a lot with me, because I used to work for a company which has been a leader in their industry, but they tried to launch a marketplace, and finally we were not able to do it because of many tension, especially tension between short-term and long-term goals. And finally, they underestimate the investment, to be the leader of the platform.
I think that comes to the initial point. I do hope that we will stop even explaining why partnerships are critical for a company and it will just be natural. Obviously, in the tech industry, payment industry, it's good to see that now there is a real mindset that is happening in most of I would say, the companies. When I say advanced, it in terms of willing to think like doing the extra mile and thinking beyond the typical traditional way of structuring a team. We have seen that even now in some companies, you have not only partnership managers, but you have even partnership managers dedicated to certain industries, to certain partners. And even if you go deep, some partnership managers who are only responsible for looking after the product and how it's evolving, and others more commercial. I think I've been lucky to be in this industry for 15 years now, and I've been doing partnerships for 14 years. So it is basically the first year where I'm not officially a partnership manager, or at least responsible for partnerships. But actually, I realize that I'm keep on doing them. And this is where I would like to go now, is that even if you don't have this role because you're a sales manager, or you are the vice president or whatever, or a account manager, the most important is that you have this mindset of long term and collaboration in a smart way. So the way I look at it is pretty positive, to be honest, in the tech industry specifically, because in the tech industry, I'm not going to say only payments, because it's true for different players, there is this very natural connection between the solutions. Because as I said earlier, if you want to buy a point of sale, you probably need a company to do the integration. And before that, maybe you hired a consultant, because the consultant has to do a little bit of study to tell you which solution is a good fit for you. And then after the implementation, you probably have within your own team internally someone who is an expert in this solution. So if you look at it, the collaboration, the connection between the tech solutions is natural compared to maybe other industries. That being said, that's also the danger, I would say. Everyone looks interesting. How can you make the good decision, as we said at the beginning, even when everyone is really good and doing a smart strategy and showing you something nice? You have only 24 hours per day. So how are you going to organize your hours to make sure, again, to reach the results you want to have? How are you going to make sure also to not be excited or over enthusiastic by some very new trends? If you look at AI today, everyone is mentioning it. Everyone is excited about it, and everyone now is even claiming to be using it. Interestingly, it's very new. It's very new. We don't have enough. It's too early to judge how this will really impact everyone's business. So this is where I believe you need to be smart. Shall I invest on this? Again, the stock exchange thing. Am I going to go for this and I will make a very good deal when I will look at it in 5 years, 10 years? Or is it something I should maybe see what's around before going for that? So that leads you again to have a real vision about your way of working, but also your way of managing. And these tech companies, we have seen also the past years that many of them have suffered as well because of the economy. What are the investments that you're ready to be okay with in the future, no matter what will be the situation? And I think having a mindset of collaboration is always great, as long as you do these steps that we mentioned earlier and you prepare. Of course, the risk zero doesn't exist, but you are minimizing the risk while you are maximizing the risk of success. So that's the way I look at it, pretty positive.
Dounia, thank you very much. It was a masterclass in partnership leadership. So what you've shown us today, that is partnerships are not just deal, they are design choice. So they shape our company grow, how systems scale, and how trust travels. That's the kind of leadership that doesn't just follow momentum, it's created it. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. It was a real pleasure discussing this topic with you, Stefan. And I hope that everything that has been shared today will serve future partnership managers, but also managers who are willing to hire partnership managers. Thank you, Stefan.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dounia.